My name is Dorothy, and I am 68 years old. For the last 5 years, I've lived alone in the house. My husband Arthur and I bought over 4 decades ago. The quiet is both a companion and a weight. My greatest comfort was my son Gregory and his wife Chelsea. They were my anchor. So when Greg, with such sincere worry in his voice, suggested he help me manage my bills by having his name on my main bank account, I agreed. It felt like a relief, but that sense of relief lasted only about 3 weeks. Because on a routine Tuesday morning, I decided to stop by the bank to order new checkbooks. And what I saw through the glass door of the manager's office froze the blood in my veins. Now, before I go any further, I have to ask, where are you joining me from today? I love knowing how far these stories travel. If you're just finding this channel, please do me a kindness and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. It truly helps more people find these shared moments of truth. And if you've ever had a gut feeling that something was off with someone you trusted, type gut feeling in the comments below. Let's get into the story now. My days had a rhythm, a quiet melody composed of small, familiar notes. I would wake with the sun, brew a single cup of coffee in the percolator Arthur loved, and take it to the back porch. My garden was my solace. I'd spend hours with my hands in the soil, tending to the roses he'd planted for our 20th anniversary. The afternoons were for reading or a long phone call with my dearest friend, Linda. Evenings were quiet often, with the television for background noise, waiting for the weekly call from Greg. Wednesday nights, 7 o'clock. He never missed it. Or at least he hadn't for a long time. Arthur and I built this life from scratch. We married young, with nothing but 2 suitcases and a stubborn determination. He worked construction. I worked as a bookkeeper for a small hardware store. We saved every dime. This house, every piece of furniture, the old maple tree in the front yard, it all represented 1,000 small sacrifices. We wanted to give Greg stability, but more than that, we wanted to give him character. Arthur would say to me, "We're not leaving him a fortune, Dot. We're leaving him our values. A man needs to build his own." Greg was a good boy. Not perfect, but kind. He had his father's smile. I met Chelsea 3 years ago. She was pretty in a sharp, polished way, like a magazine photo. Her handshake was firm, her smile efficient. I tried. Lord knows I tried. I invited her over for lunch, asked about her family, her job in marketing. Her answers were always pleasant, but somehow closed like a beautifully wrapped box with nothing inside. I sensed a distance, a judgment maybe, about my old furniture, my simple life. But I chalked it up to generational differences. If Greg loved her, that was enough for me. The suggestion came on a Wednesday night call about 2 months ago. Greg's voice was layered with concern. "Mom, I was thinking, with Dad gone, and you handling all these bills alone, it worries me. What if you forget a payment? What if there's an emergency and you can't get to the bank? All these online scams now." He painted a picture of me as fragile, confused, vulnerable. It stung a little, but it came wrapped in such apparent love. "Let me help you," he said. "We can add me to your checking and savings account, just as a safeguard. I can set up autopay for the utilities monitor things. It would give me such peace of mind." The phrase echoed. His peace of mind. I thought giving it to him was my job as a mother. So I said yes. The following Sunday, they showed up unannounced. That was the first odd note. They usually came for a scheduled Sunday dinner every few weeks. Greg was jittery pacing the living room. Chelsea's eyes seemed to inventory everything. "This house really is too big for one person, Dorothy," she remarked, sipping the tea I'd made. The property taxes alone must be a burden. And the roof. Have you had it inspected lately? It felt less like concern and more like an appraisal. Greg chimed in, "Yeah, Mom. We should look at all your paperwork, your insurance policies, the deed, just to make sure everything's in order." A cold trickle of unease went down my spine, but I silenced it. This was my son, my boy. Then the bank statement arrived. I still got paper statements. I liked holding the record in my hands. I sat at the kitchen table with my calculator, as I always did. The balance was off. Not by a fortune, but by a few $100s. A charge I didn't recognize for a website hosting service. I never had a website. My heart did a little stutter. I called Greg. He answered on the second ring. "Oh, that," he said, his voice smooth as butter. "That's just that new security monitoring service I set up for you. Remember, I mentioned it. And there's probably a couple of automatic annual fees that hit. Don't worry about it. I'll email you a detailed breakdown." The email never came. When I mentioned it again a week later, he was vague, then slightly annoyed. "Mom, I'm handling it. You don't need to stress over every little line item." The seed of doubt, tiny and dark, was now planted in the fertile soil of my mind. The doubt needed air. It was Linda who gave it. She came over for our weekly lunch, her no-nonsense self in a bright blue sweater. She took one look at me and said, "Spill it, Dorothy. You've got the look of a woman who's thinking in circles." I told her about adding Greg to the account, about the odd visit, about the mysterious charges. Linda put down her sandwich, her expression turning serious. "Sweetheart," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "love doesn't mean turning off your own brain. Trust, but verify. That's not a lack of love. It's common sense, especially when it comes to money and family. You need to go down to that bank yourself and see what's what." Her words broke the spell of guilt. She was right. I wasn't a helpless child. I'd balanced books for 30 years. After she left, I didn't call Greg. I dug through my old address book and found the number for Marcus Sullivan. He was Arthur's lawyer and ours for 40 years. A man of few words and granite integrity. His secretary put me right through. "Marcus, it's Dorothy Ellis," I said. "Dorothy, good to hear your voice. What can I do for you?" His tone was warm but professional. I explained the situation, my voice wavering slightly. "I added Greg's name to my accounts last month. For convenience." There was a long pause on the line. I could almost hear him frowning. "Dorothy," he said. Finally, his voice low and grave, "adding a joint owner, especially an adult child, is not just for convenience. In the eyes of the law, you've essentially made a gift of half of everything in that account. He can legally withdraw every last cent, and there is nothing the bank can do to stop him. They are following your instructions." The room tilted. "But he wouldn't—" I whispered more to myself than to him. "I hope not," Marcus said, his tone leaving no room for false comfort. "But you need to protect yourself. Today, go to the bank, review the activity, and call me back." That night, I couldn't sleep. Arthur's words about values echoed in the dark. Tuesday morning, I woke up with a resolve as hard as stone. I dressed carefully, as if for battle. The drive to the First Mercantile Bank branch, the one Arthur and I had used forever, felt surreal. I rehearsed what I would say to Frank, the branch manager. Frank, who'd gone fishing with Arthur, who'd given Greg a silver dollar when he graduated high school. I pulled into the familiar lot, and there it was. Greg's silver SUV parked in the corner spot. My breath hitched. Maybe he was here on his own business. A coincidence. I turned off the engine, my hands clammy on the wheel. As I gathered my purse, I saw the main doors swing open. Frank, with his familiar paunch and balding head, was ushering two people out of his private office and into the lobby with a too hearty laugh. Greg and Chelsea. Chelsea was beaming, clutching a large manila envelope to her chest. Greg had a hand on the small of her back, leaning in to say something that made her laugh again. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a triumphant one. They turned and followed Frank back into his office. Frank closed the door, but the blinds on the interior window were open. A cold, clear certainty washed over me. This was no coincidence. I got out of the car, my legs moving on autopilot. The electronic chime announced my entry into the bank. The air was cool, smelling of paper and disinfectant. I didn't approach a teller. I moved slowly, as if looking for a deposit slip, and positioned myself beside a tall, potted ficus tree that gave me a direct sightline into Frank's office. What I saw in that office over the next several minutes will be etched in my memory until my last breath. It unfolded with a silent, horrifying clarity. Frank was sitting behind his desk, a wide, complicit smile on his face. He was stamping and initialing a stack of documents. Greg stood to one side, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, not looking at Frank, but at Chelsea. Chelsea was perched on the edge of the client chair, her posture erect, her eyes glittering. She said something to Greg, her lips forming words I couldn't hear. He nodded a tight, nervous gesture. Then Frank opened a large, flat drawer in his desk. He didn't retrieve a checkbook or a ledger. He pulled out bricks of cash, bound stacks of $100 bills with mustard-colored bands around them. My cash. The money from the sale of Arthur's construction equipment. The careful savings from my pension withdrawals. My safety net. He counted out 5 stacks, placing them with a soft thud on the polished wood between him and Chelsea. Then 5 more. The pile grew. Chelsea reached out not to take them, but to gently stroke the edge of the top stack with a manicured finger. She looked up at Greg, and her face broke into that smile. It was a smile of pure, unadulterated greed. A smile that said, "Look at what we have. Look at what is now ours." It was the most grotesque thing I have ever witnessed. My world didn't so much shatter as it vaporized. The sound in my ears was a rushing ocean. I saw Arthur's face, kind and weary. I saw Greg as a little boy, holding my hand crossing the street. I heard all the promises, the "I love you, Mom," the "don't worry, I'll take care of everything." It all turned to ash in that instant. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a son making a mistake. This was a calculated, cold-blooded theft, and my son was the architect. His wife was the gleeful accomplice, and Frank Arthur's old friend was the hired guard unlocking the vault. A primal scream built in my throat. The urge to throw open that door and scream "thieves" was almost overwhelming. But a deeper, older instinct surfaced. The instinct of a woman who had survived loss, who had navigated a world not always kind to widows. If I charged in now, emotional and hysterical, I would lose. They would have excuses. Frank would cover. The money would be gone. And I would be the crazy old woman causing a scene. No, I took a step back, then another. I turned my back on the scene in the glass box. I walked out of the bank, the chime sounding absurdly cheerful. The sunlight outside was blinding. I got into my car, my hands trembling so violently I could barely fit the key in the ignition. I stared at the steering wheel, the numbness receding, replaced by a fury so cold it felt like clarity. I picked up my phone. I did not dial 911. I found the recent call list and pressed Marcus Sullivan's name. He answered on the first ring. Dorothy. My voice came out steady, alien to my own ears. Marcus, it's Dorothy. They're stealing from me right now at the bank. Greg, his wife, and Frank. I just saw them with stacks of my cash. I need to know what I can legally do this minute. Marcus did not miss a beat. His voice became a rapid, calm command. Listen carefully. Do not go back in there. Do not confront them. You are several steps ahead because you saw it. Now we move. First drive to a different branch of your bank. Not another location of First Mercantile. A different bank altogether. Do you have your checkbook and ID with you? Yes, I said, already starting the car. Good. Go to the nearest Liberty Trust. It's a 10-minute drive from you. Go inside, ask to speak to the branch manager privately. Tell them you are a new customer and you need to open an account immediately and transfer funds. Then, using their computer or with their help, you will log into your online banking for your old accounts. You will transfer every single available cent, checking, savings, money market into this new account at Liberty Trust. Once the funds are in transit, you will call First Mercantile's customer service line and place a freeze on all your old accounts, citing suspected unauthorized activity. Do you understand? Yes. The map in my mind was redrawing itself. The path was clear. I am drafting a revocation of access and a formal notice of dispute. I will send it via email and certified mail to Frank personally and to the bank's legal department. I will also send a copy to Greg, making it clear that any further transactions are unauthorized and will be pursued legally. Now go. Call me when you're at Liberty Trust and have the manager with you. The drive was a blur. My fear had been refined into a sharp, focused weapon. I parked at the Liberty Trust in a strip mall I rarely visited. I walked in a 68-year-old woman in a simple knit shirt and slacks, and I asked for the manager. A man in his 40s with a kind face and a name tag that read Javier greeted me. How can I help you, ma'am? I looked him in the eye. My name is Dorothy Ellis. I need to open a new account right now. But first, I need to tell you that I am likely the victim of financial exploitation by a family member who is at this very moment draining my accounts at another institution. I need to move my money to safety, and I need your help to do it quickly. Javier's expression shifted from polite attention to serious concern. He didn't ask prying questions. He simply said, "Come with me, Ms. Ellis." He led me to a small, private office. I called Marcus and put him on speakerphone. Marcus explained the legal situation succinctly. Javier listened, nodded, and said, "We can help. Let's get you set up." For the next 45 minutes, with Javier's quiet assistance, I performed a digital rescue mission. I logged into my old bank's website, my fingers steady now. I saw the accounts. The savings account, which should have held over $200,000, already showed a withdrawal this morning of $180,000. A wire transfer. My stomach lurched. But the checking account, the money market, were still intact. I initiated transfers from each, moving the funds into the shiny, new Liberty Trust account Javier had just created. Each click of the confirm button felt like drawing a line in the sand. Each transfer was a piece of my life I was reclaiming. Marcus called back. "The revocation is sent. I've also notified their fraud department. The freeze is in place on your old accounts. They can't touch what's left. Dorothy, I need you to think about next steps. Changing your will, powers of attorney, everything." I looked at the final confirmation screen. The money that remained, about 85% of my total savings, was now safe. The old accounts were empty shells, save for the money Greg had already taken. I thanked Javier, a true professional who had been my unexpected ally. He gave me his card. "Call me anytime, Ms. Ellis." I sat back in the chair. The adrenaline was beginning to ebb, leaving a profound, hollow exhaustion. I looked at the clock on the wall. It had been exactly 1 hour and 7 minutes since I had walked out of First Mercantile Bank. My phone rang. The screen flashed Greg. I watched it ring 3 times, then swiped to answer. I said nothing. "Mom." His voice was a frantic, angry bark. "Mom, what the hell did you do? Why are my cards being declined? Why is the account frozen? I'm trying to finish a transaction and—" "What transaction?" "Greg." My voice was flat, calm. "The transaction you started with Frank and Chelsea, an hour ago. The one where you were taking stacks of my cash." The silence on the other end was absolute. Then a sputter. "What? No, Mom. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. I was there. I stood outside Frank's office and watched you. I watched your wife smile at my money. I saw it all." Another silence, thicker this time. When he spoke again, the anger was gone, replaced by a wheedling panic. "Mom, listen, please. It's not what you think. We're in a bind. Chelsea's business. We had a cash flow problem. It was just a short-term loan. We were going to pay you back next month, with interest. Frank said it was the easiest way. You were never supposed to find out. A short-term loan you didn't ask for, from an account you had no right to empty. Do you hear yourself? Mom, please." His voice cracked a performance of desperation. "We're family. You can't do this to us. We need that money. We'll be ruined." From the background, I heard Chelsea's voice, shrill and furious. "Give me that." There was a rustling, and then her voice, clear and venomous, came through the line. "Dorothy, you need to unfreeze those accounts right now. That money is as much Greg's as it is yours. You're his mother. What's yours should be his. You're just a selfish old woman hoarding it while we're trying to build a life." Her words were like a slap, but they also crystallized everything. This was their true belief. My life, my security, my husband's legacy was merely an obstacle to their desires. I found my voice, and it was iron. "Chelsea, you listen to me. You are a thief. And Greg, you are a disgrace to your father's memory. Here is what is going to happen. 1. Your legal access to every asset of mine is permanently revoked. The paperwork is already filed. 2. Frank will be reported to the Banking Commission for his role in this. That is already in motion. 3. You will return the $180,000 you took today. You have 24 hours to deposit it back into the account you stole it from. If it is not there by 10 a.m. tomorrow, I will file a criminal report for fiduciary abuse and grand theft with the police. I have already spoken to my lawyer and the bank's fraud department. They have all the evidence they need from the transfer records." "You wouldn't dare," Chelsea hissed. "Try me," I said, every word a block of ice. "And 4, do not contact me again. You are no longer my son. The man I raised died a long time ago, and I was too blind to see it." I ended the call. I placed the phone on Javier's desk. I felt emptied out. There was no triumphant surge, only a vast, quiet sadness and a strange, feather-light sensation of relief. The worst had happened. I had seen it, and I had survived it. They did not return the money. Marcus helped me file the police report. The detective was a woman about Greg's age, her face sympathetic, but professional, as I recounted the facts without tears. We filed a civil suit as well. The wheels of justice, I learned, turned slowly. Frank was fired after Liberty Trust's fraud department contacted his superiors. That was a small, cold satisfaction. The real battle was internal. The grief was not for the money. It was for the son I had loved, the future I had imagined grandchildren in my garden holidays around my table. That man was a ghost. The person who bore his name was a stranger, capable of breathtaking cruelty. I allowed myself to mourn the loss. I cried in the shower. I yelled at Arthur's photograph. I spent days in my robe, not answering the door. Linda came over, stocked my fridge, and sat with me in silence, or talked about anything else. Slowly, I began to rebuild. Not my life with Greg, but my life for myself. I joined the book club at the local library. The first meeting, I barely spoke, but it felt good to be around people and stories that had nothing to do with me. I hired a local college student, a polite young man named Ben, to help with the heavier yard work and minor repairs. Paying him felt clean, honest. I met with Javier regularly. He helped me set up a new, secure financial plan. I learned to use online banking with strong passwords and two-factor authentication. I wasn't a dinosaur. I could learn. Marcus rewrote my will and all my estate documents. I left a bequest to the library, a scholarship fund, at the vocational school where Arthur learned his trade, and the rest to a charity that helped foster children. People who start with nothing like we did. The house felt different. It was no longer a place waiting for family to fill it. It was my home. I repainted the spare room a color I loved, a soft sea green Arthur would have hated. I got a cat from the shelter, a lazy orange tabby who napped in sunbeams. The silence, once a weight, began to feel like peace. I was learning the difference between loneliness and solitude. One is imposed, the other is chosen. It is a year later, almost to the day. I am sitting on my back porch in the early morning light, a cup of coffee warming my hands. The roses are in full bloom, a riot of crimson and pink against the green. My cat Oliver purrs at my feet. The air smells of damp earth and possibility. I think of Greg sometimes. The anger has burned down to embers, and the embers have cooled to ash. I feel no hatred. What I feel is a profound sorrow for the path he chose, and a distant pity for a soul that values so little. Chelsea's greed was a catalyst, but the weakness, the betrayal, was his alone. Arthur was right. We didn't leave him a fortune. We left him values. He chose to spend them. The lesson I learned is etched into my bones now. Love should not require you to hand over the keys to your own kingdom. You can hold someone's hand without letting them hold your wallet. And sometimes, the most painful "oh you" ever say to someone you love, to their entitled demands, is the very word that saves you. It saves your life, your dignity, your peace. I am at peace. It is a quiet, sturdy thing, built not on the presence of others, but on my own resilience. I am the owner of this life, every beautiful and broken piece of it. I still glance at the phone, sometimes on Wednesday evenings, a ghost of an old habit. It doesn't ring anymore. And you know what? That's okay. The silence, I've learned, can be a sound of its own. It's the sound of peace. It's the sound of me finally listening to myself. Thank you for listening to my story. It means more than you know to share this space with you. If you have ever faced a betrayal, big or small, and had to rebuild your trust in the world, I would be honored if you shared a bit of your story in the comments below. Let's be a community that understands. If this story resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up. It helps others find it. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and sharing this channel. There are more stories of real-life resilience and quiet strength to come. Take care of your hearts, and remember to safeguard the treasures you've built, both in your home and within yourself. Be well, friends.